Thank you, Deepak, for being here. Thank you to everybody for coming here and to join us this evening for this very special event. My name is Ingrid Samh. I am one of the organisers of this evening alongside Dr. Zelda Di Blasi, Topas Shestra, Asma Bazura and Anna Navin-Young. We're a group of researchers and practitioners who are really passionate about educating and creating community around well-being in all aspects of our lives. And it's been such a pleasure to have collaborated on this event with two amazing student societies here in UCC, SAV, the Suicide Awareness and Mental Health Society, and the Indian Society. And we're going to hear a little bit from all of the contributors shortly before the main event begins. So, Deepak Chopra has been at the forefront of the wellbeing movement for the best part of 4 decades, and it's an honour and privilege for us to welcome him to UCC. We're very grateful to Deepak for sharing his wisdom and insights with us this evening. I'm going to just do a few tiny little housekeeping rules. Emergency exits are there, and please, everyone, make sure your phones are turned off. All right? We're now going to hear from the student societies, and first I'd like to welcome the representatives from SAV to join me here. Please, thank you.
Hello everyone, we're SAV. My name is Apurva and I'm the Vice Chairperson.
Hey everyone, my name's Alana and I'm the Wellness and Accessibility Officer for SAV.
Hello everyone, my name is Irfan and I'm the Finance Officer.
So, the UCC Suicide Awareness and Mental Health Society emphasises the need for greater mental health support and awareness, as well for positive atmosphere on campus.
So we specialize in hosting events that facilitate our missions, such as hosting regular tea and chats, sea swims, guest speakers / panels, and a massive year-end musical concert collaborating with 20 plus societies, with us raising funds towards mental health organizations like Jigsaw and HelpLink.
With my position being Wellness and Accessibility Officer, it is my utmost role to make sure everyone on my society's mental health is kept as the priority and that no burnout happens. And for accessibility, I like to ensure that everyone's needs are met for each event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, such important work. And I'd like now to welcome the representatives from the Indian Society also.
Hi everyone, I'm Aryan Gathani. I'm the chairperson of UCC Indian Society.
Hi, I'm Shivika and I'm the social media manager at UCC Indian Society, and it's our role to promote the Indian culture to the entire UCC community.
We host events throughout the year such as Diwali, Holi, Republic Day and many cultural nights as well, and we are one of the largest societies at UCC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All contributing to a sense of belonging and connections. I'll then like to welcome Zelda and Topas.
Oh, it's wonderful to see you all this evening. The work of Deepak Chopra has been transformative for many people all around the world, and I know some of you have also experienced some transformation, and maybe one of you has one of his many books in your bookshelves. I spent over 20 years studying, researching, and teaching approaches to wellness and healing, including the placebo effect and positive psychology while practicing yoga and mindfulness. And Deepak Chopra's work has been so inspiring in my life. It integrates and connects Western science with Eastern philosophies and positive psychology. What I particularly love about Deepak's work is how he challenges our often limited assumptions and how he shakes the foundations of our scientific models. And this can be threatening to some, but it's also liberating and empowering, because it raises our understanding of what is possible and what is real. And I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to hear how we can be fully present and how to stay well while embracing technological advances by one of the greatest pioneers of the wellbeing movement. So I'm going to hand over to Topaz. Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's so nice to see so many lovely faces smiling back at me. So I just wanted to give a bit of background around why we even organised this event. So the whole reason was connection. We really wanted to open up a conversation and create a community of people who are interested in exploring what makes life worth living. And what better person than Deepak himself to come here and do this. So I really think at the moment we're living through a crisis of loneliness and disconnection. We're disconnected from the natural world and nature, we're disconnected from each other, and really deep down we're disconnected from ourselves because of this. And Deepak's work is all about reconnection. Reconnection to the self, reconnection to your community, and reconnection to the earth on a deep level. So we are so, so grateful to have him here to open up this conversation. And I would now like to hand over and give the mic to Deepak.
Thank you. Thank you, Topaz. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, future leaders. That's all I can say. It's a great privilege to be here tonight and meet some old friends. The great Donovan, Linda, thank you for coming, and seeing you after all these years makes me very happy. Last time Topaz came to one of my courses, she was 3 years old. So it's great to see her mature to this amazing leader. And of course, Romeo and Sophie, thank you for being here as well and organizing this with Topaz. Thank you everyone for being here. We have approximately 90 minutes to solve the mystery of our existence, so I won't waste any time. If you go on the internet right now and you Google the following question, what are the 125 questions, open questions in science? Invariably, you'll see 2 at the top. The first open question in science, what's the universe made of? And you would think we know, right? Space-time, energy, information, matter, molecules, particles, gravity, all of that we assume is the universe. Well, that's 0.01% of the visible universe. 70% of the universe is a mysterious entity called dark energy, first described by Einstein as the cosmological constant. We don't know what it is, but it opposes the force of gravity. And as we are speaking right now, the space between galaxies is expanding faster than the speed of light. So even though the universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old, that's what our current scientific model says, the cosmic horizon, which is the farthest that we can conceptualize and mathematically compute, is something like 50 billion light years away from us, and it's moving even further away. Of the remaining 30% of the universe, 27% is another mysterious entity called dark matter, and we don't know what it is either. It's not visible matter, it's transparent matter, and it's the opposite of the dark energy. It is responsible for most of the gravity in the universe. If it weren't for dark matter, then planets would spiral off and get lost in intergalactic space. But we don't know what this is. It's non-atomic, so we cannot interact with it. We are made of atoms. Dark matter is not atomic. It doesn't reflect light, absorb light, emit light, or refract light. So it's not only unknown, it's probably unknowable. That leaves 3% of the universe that's atomic. Of that, 99.999% is invisible interstellar dust. So we can't see it either. The visible universe, which we're now told with all these amazing telescopes out there, the James Webb telescope and all these other technologies that we have, the visible universe is 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion galaxies. 700 sextillion stars. And we are being told right now that 60 billion, not probable, but likely habitable planets in just the Milky Way galaxy. And the way they estimate that is through looking at something called the Goldilocks zone. If a planet is too close to its sun, then no life as we know it. If it's too far away, it's too cold, no life as we know it. So it has to be within a certain range of a star. And then there are other things that have to be very precise. Gravity, not only the atmosphere, but everything else, various cosmological constants. But that's 0.01%. This 2 trillion galaxies that I'm talking about is 0.01%. And the problem with that is if you look at atoms, you find they're made of particles. And particles have a schizophrenic nature. When you're looking at them, they occupy a location in space-time and have units of mass and energy. But when you're not looking at them, they disappear into waves. And if you ask scientists, where do these waves exist? They'll say in Hilbert space. And you ask them, what is Hilbert space? It's a mathematical space named after a mathematician, Hilbert, and it's from there that the universe is emerging. But if you ask them, you try to pin them down, you say, where is this space? Other than as a mathematical model, then the best answer you'll get is, shut up and calculate. So, bottom line, what's the universe made of? The best answer that you'll get from science today is it's made of nothing. So if the universe is made of nothing, why does it look like you and me? Why does it look like this microphone, this building, which is all part of the universe? The grass, the trees, the animals, the rocks. And that's called the hard problem of consciousness in science. So those are the 2 most important questions in science. What's the universe made of? And if it's made of nothing, then why does it look like everything? And I'm here to tell you that science will never be able to answer these questions, and nor will current religion or spirituality. And the reason is they're both based on obsolete models of reality. So we're in the midst of a reformation, I think, for both science and spirituality. Science is based on a philosophy in science called naive realism. Naive realism means the picture of the world is the look of it, and more or less the human look of it. The picture of the world is the human look of it, not the look of an insect with 100 eyes, or a dragonfly with 30,000 eyes, or the experience of a snake that navigates through infrared, or a butterfly that experiences ultraviolet. So we are in the midst, as I said, of a major revolution, and this conversation is happening in major journals in the scientific world. So these are some recent issues of New Scientist, a British magazine, but the same conversation is happening in the United States as well, if you look at some of the issues. of Scientific American, The Science of Consciousness. Do our brains construct reality? It says how our brains construct reality. That's very misleading, because our brains do not construct reality. And is consciousness fundamental to the cosmos? How did we learn to speak? Is the universe conscious? What is the flaw at the heart of reality? So I'll come to these questions a little later, but we'll begin with what you are most interested in, mental well-being and physical well-being, and the amazing vision that you have to bring about well-being not only to Ireland but to the young community and hopefully to the world. So if any of you is interested in mental well-being, our foundation, Chopra Foundation, has a program called neveralone.love. I'll repeat that, www.neveralone.love. Check it out and join the community. This is a global community for mental well-being with 3 basic ideas. Seva, which means service, Sangha, which means community, and sadhana, which means spiritual practice. The Buddha said this in slightly different words. He said, take refuge in the Buddha, which means higher consciousness. Take refuge in the Dharma, which means higher purpose. And take refuge in the Sangha, which means community. And this is what we're doing with Never Alone, which is a non-profit. And we hope that you will help us create this through your community as well, because we need now more than ever a pandemic of joy. Only a pandemic of joy can heal the world. Okay, joy should be the ultimate measure of success. Joy should be the ultimate measure of health and well-being. And it doesn't matter how much money you have or what kind of relationships you have or what kind of profession you're in. If you don't have joy, then what's the point of life? Our life is meant to be joyful. And if every 40 seconds somebody in the world is dying from suicide, and if the statistics are right that suicide has now become the 2nd most common cause of death among teens, then there's something very wrong with our humanity. Our humanity is incomplete, and we need to resurrect our spirit to do that. So, in the first part of my talk, I should share with you the major revolutions that have occurred in the world of science, especially in how we look at genetic information and the whole new area of epigenetics and neuroplasticity, which is now very valid and very accepted as a fundamental aspect of our existence. So, you're born with 25,000 genes. Your parents gave you 25,000 genes. You can't change them, but you can change their activity. That's what epigenetics is all about. But in addition, you have about 2 million to 20 million extra genes that are not human, that are bacterial. And they're referred to as the microbiome. So the dominant genetic information in your body is not human, it's bacterial. In fact, I think we are the awakening of bacterial consciousness as human beings. And we need to respect these bacteria, not kill them all the time with antibiotics and so on. So that genetic information is in your gut, in your skin, in your nose, in your stomach, in your intestine, in your rectum, everywhere in your body. That information can be changed entirely. And if genes are the software of your body, then we have a new revolution. The body is the printout of genes. So if you can change your genes and upgrade the 25,000 genes that are human, then you can literally print out a new body. So right now my work is focused in the foundation on what we call the longevity experiment, where we hope to create the science for people to live well over 100 and make chronic disease optional, so that you shouldn't have things like diabetes or heart disease or cancer or autoimmune illness or degenerative disorders or Alzheimer's. And I'll make the case for that a little bit later. But now let's look at health span, reversal of aging, and the future of well-being with our current knowledge of what we know. So we know that even though we think of our body as a physical object, the body is not a physical object. The body is a field of awareness modifying itself as a perceptual activity. And ultimately, our bodies are made of consciousness, and consciousness being a field of infinite possibilities, we have the ability to transform our bodies in a way that can reverse biological age as well. I'm not trying to show off, but I'm 77 years of age next month, and I certainly don't feel certainly don't feel that I'm in my 70s or my 60s or even my 50s. So I have to live up to what I'm promising, and the science is there for you as well if you pay attention. So when we change our experience of our body to a field of awareness, when we shift our identity to that which is timeless, there's a phrase in the ancient wisdom traditions of India, time is the consumer and we are its food. So we metabolize time into aging. And right now everybody is saying, I don't have enough time. Well, please don't ever say that, because if you don't have enough time, or if that's your internal dialogue, then your biological clock will speed up. Your heart rate will speed up, your blood pressure will go up, your platelets will get jittery, and your body will get inflamed. And if you suddenly drop dead of a heart attack, then you fulfill the prophecy that you don't have enough time. Okay. There are experiments now that have been done on the perception of time. So there's clock time and there's perceived time. And if you put people in a room without telling them that the clock time is inaccurate, you speed up the clock, you slow down the clock, and they think it's real time, then those who experience slow time, their biology has a different experience of aging. If you speed up the clock and they perceive it as time running out, then their biology expresses that. So time is the consumer, we are its food. We need to understand how we can live in a way that we experience timelessness, because that's fundamental reality. We need to treat our bodies not as physical objects, because if you say I have a body, then you have to explain which one. You started as a fertilized egg, then you were a zygote, then you were an embryo, then you were a baby, a toddler, a teenager, a mature adult, all the way to dusty death. So if you say I have a body, which one? Okay. Very basic misconception that we have a physical body. Okay. And that's a fundamental flaw in science. We call it naive realism. Anyway, so those are the three things, and reframing the meaning of aging. Can we grow old, wise, and still have the biology of youth? That's the promise of the new science. There are other things here which are very important for us to have ideal self-regulation and homeostasis. So deep rest, sleep, and meditation, two crucial things. And in the year 2012, we published a paper which was ultimately accepted in Nature Translational Psychiatry. We had a Nobel laureate, Elizabeth Blackburn, who had discovered the enzyme telomerase, which regulates the length of telomeres, which basically runs your genetic clock for aging. And in a 1-week retreat of meditation, primarily mantra meditation and some self-reflection and some mindfulness, we saw a 40% increase in the enzyme telomerase, which regulates our biological clock. There's no drug that can do that. Elizabeth Blackburn, the Nobel laureate who joined our study, had no familiarity with meditation whatsoever, but she agreed to be one of the investigators, along with scientists from Harvard and Duke and UCSD and University of California in San Francisco and Mount Sinai, a really stellar team of investigators. We showed that biological age can be reversed in 1 week with meditation and with other practices like reflection and yoga and vagal stimulation. This has never been done before, and now it's been replicated by many other scientists and many other people from all these amazing institutions in the world. The third thing I mentioned here is nurturing your body through healthy foods, and the healthiest foods are called phytochemicals. Phytochemicals because they derive directly from the energy of the sun through photosynthesis, which means 7 colors of the rainbow and the 6 tastes of life: sweet, sour, salt, bitter, pungent, astringent. In other words, Ayurvedic diets with maximum diversity of plant-based foods. And if you eat meat or poultry or fish, if it's not produced in a factory, because if meat comes from a factory, then it has all kinds of things like hormones and antibiotics and insecticides, basically poison. And if you consume that, that will destroy your microbiome, the 2 million genes that you have in your gut. On the other hand, if you have a diet that's maximum diversity of plant-based foods and minimal amount of foods that are processed, refined, or have extremely high sugar or are full of antibiotics, then that will ruin your microbiome and cause what is called dysbiosis. But changing your diet will immediately change the genetic information in your gut. There's also now a lot of research on nutritional supplements like adaptogens, signal molecules, vitamins and minerals, which if understood and taken properly have a profound effect on homeostasis and getting rid of inflammation. You may have heard of these molecules in Ayurveda, things like ashwagandha, which is a plant adaptogen for male potency, and shatavari, which is a phytochemical estrogen derived from plants. And so these are adaptogens that are signal molecules. Now they're being actually created by many companies as well. And if you go on Amazon or whatever, you can look up phytochemicals, adaptogens, Ayurvedic adaptogens, signal molecules, etc. The most interesting thing to emerge during the COVID pandemic was an understanding of vagal activation. So we have 2 aspects to our autonomic nervous system. One part of the autonomic nervous system is called the sympathetic nervous system, and this is responsible for what we call the fight or flight response. So when you're in the midst of a crisis, danger, then your sympathetic nervous system goes into overdrive. And if your sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive, then your body gets inflamed and all the things that can go wrong. So during the COVID pandemic, we were doing what is called meta-analysis. We were looking at who's dying, who's getting sick, and are there people who are not getting sick, or if they do get sick, the toll is very minor, they don't get extreme morbidity. And what we found was that on almost every case that was examined, and we use AI to do our analysis, it's called meta-analysis. So in every case that got sick, or when people were dying, they had inflammation, they had sympathetic overdrive, and they had dysbiosis, which means their microbiome was inflamed, the 2 million genes in your gut, and they had what are called cytokine storms, inflammatory storms, particularly the young people who were dying. The older people had, of course, chronic disease, but they also had inflammation. And the common factor in almost everyone who had extreme morbidity or mortality was stress, depression, anxiety, inflammation. And you could predict beforehand who was going to get sick and who was going to actually even die from COVID-19. So during this time, we started looking at the literature on what is called the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is called the rest, rejuvenate, and digest system. And basically, modern science has ignored the parasympathetic nervous system until now, until recently. In the parasympathetic nervous system, there's a nerve called the vagus nerve. It's a Latin name, vagus nerve, but it's related to the English word vagabond. So the vagus nerve is the largest, longest nerve in your body. And in yogic traditions, it's known as the healing nerve. It's not, of course, referred to as the vagus, which is a Latin word. There are other names, Ida, Pingala, Brahmanadi in yogic literature. But this nerve travels from your midbrain to your entire body with only one purpose, self-regulation and healing. So the vagus nerve, as it emerges from the brain, from the midbrain, the first thing it interacts with is the oculomotor nerve, the eyes. When you look at somebody's eyes, you can tell if they're inflamed, if they have a hangover, if they are nervous, if they are lying. Every emotion is expressed through the eyes. When the vagus nerve dominates, the eyes are clear. And actually, when you move your eyes, you've seen Indian Bharatanatyam dances, and people move their eyes in all directions, and basically move the eyes clockwise, counterclockwise, bringing them apart and converging them. These are yogic mudras. They all stimulate the vagus nerve for healing. We have the vagus nerve then travels to the face and it interacts with the facial nerve. You have 43 facial muscles which express more than 100 human emotions. So you can read by looking at a person's face, you can read their emotions. You can say, is this person happy? Is this person sad? Is this person angry? Is this person frustrated? When you smile, and in the yogic wisdom tradition, they suggest that you take a few minutes to just smile. And when you smile, and if you imagine that you're smiling from your head to your toes, everything is smiling. Your scalp is smiling, your nose is smiling, your face is smiling, your heart is smiling, even your genitalia, your fingernails are smiling. Then you stimulate the vagus nerve for healing. Just by smiling. Then the vagus nerve travels here, interacts with the laryngeal nerve. And once again, the tone of your voice says everything about your emotions. You can listen to somebody on the phone. He said, did you sleep well last night? Are you upset about something? Or do you have a hangover? All this is reflected in the tone of your voice. So when you chant, when you sing, the word enchantment comes from being one with God through chanting. Enchantment. To become one with the divine through chanting, through singing. You stimulate the vagus nerve. When you put your awareness in your heart and think of somebody with love, you stimulate the vagus nerve. When you slow down your breathing and take deep breaths, you stimulate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve then travels to your abdomen, it pierces the diaphragm, it goes to all the organs in your body. Liver, spleen, kidneys, but also the hollow organs, including the stomach, the intestine, the rectum. And if you practice yoga, then every branch of the vagus nerve is stimulated. Every branch. And that happens also with Tai Chi, with Qigong, with many other techniques that have been very popular in Eastern wisdom traditions. But it also gets stimulated when people practice any mind-body technique, like ballet, for example. And then there are various other exercises called mudras, where you contract and open up the various sphincters in your body, all stimulate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve has bilateral traffic, so information coming from the brain to your body, and then going back to the brain from the body. About 10 years ago, I met the R&D chief of what is now the #1 pharmaceutical company in the world. I won't name it, but he came to me in a conference in Aspen, a neuroscience conference, a brain conference, and he said to me, we're moving into electroceuticals in the future because pharmaceuticals don't work. So I'd never heard the term electroceuticals. I said, what is this new discipline that you're talking about, electroceuticals? He said the FDA had approved in America a vagal implant for intractable epilepsy. So some people with intractable epilepsy, they only respond to vagal stimulation. You have to cut up a patient, you put an electrical device, and then you stimulate the vagus nerve. But to their amazement, they found that not only people with epilepsy were improving, but people with heart disease, the heart disease in many cases was reversing, asthma was disappearing, arthritis was getting healed, some people were getting into cancer remission. And I said, we can do this without surgery. You don't have to cut up a person. I told him all the ways we can stimulate the vagus nerve that I just shared with you, smiling being one of them, because he didn't smile at all during the conference. And he said, yeah, I know you can do it with yoga and all this other stuff, but how do we make money? And we're a pharmaceutical company and we have to make money. So I said, well, maybe you can do an implant for people who are on a wheelchair, who can't do these practices. Of course, even if you're on a wheelchair, you can learn how to chant. You learn how to breathe. You can learn how to smile, which are normal things that human beings do. And I said also, you don't have to cut a person. You put a magnet and you do the same thing with your iPhone. And you don't have to cut anybody else. I never heard from him again. So, vagal stimulation, please watch out for it. It's the next revolution. And people are indeed now creating little devices like an ear pod that you can put in your ear, and it stimulates the auricular branch of the vagus nerve. So you could be in a conference like this, or you could be playing tennis, and inflammation would be coming down in your body. But that's already happening. If nothing else, take a few moments every day to look in the mirror, move your eyes, do a little chanting, a little humming, a little oming, and smile. And you'll see everything will change. And a little breathing and yoga if you can. You have a complete set of exercises to heal your body. So that's vagal stimulation. Moderate exercise, eliminating toxins from our foods, seasonal detox, and cultivating flexibility and creativity in consciousness, and most important, love as a healing modality. Because we used to think, everybody says love heals. and we think of it as a metaphor. But now there's very good science when two people are engaged in loving awareness, as we call it, if a therapist and the therapist's client are engaged in loving awareness, which basically means 4 things: attention, deep listening; affection, deep caring; appreciation, deep gratitude; and then something we call radical acceptance, accepting everybody just as they are. Then you have a phenomenon in the brain called limbic resonance. Limbic resonance means the people who are engaged in this experience of attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance, their emotional brain starts to resonate in the same frequency. And limbic resonance leads to limbic regulation, and that leads to something called limbic revision, which means the neural networks rewire for healing and self-regulation and homeostasis. So love is the ultimate healer. There's no question about it. But before you can think of love, you need empathy. Empathy means you feel what other people feel. Babies feel that. If you kick a dog or a cat, the baby will wince because the baby feels at a visceral level the suffering of another person. We become immune to it as we grow older. Empathy is feeling what other people feel. Compassion is the consequence of empathy. It is the desire to alleviate suffering. And then if you have compassion, that leads to love in action, which in our tradition is called karma yoga, the yoga of action. Because love without action is meaningless, and action without love is irrelevant. When you have love in action, then the whole world moves with you. And that is what we want to do with Never Alone, with your help. Okay? To create a global pandemic of love in action. Seva, service; sadhana, spiritual practice; sangha, community. And this can be both online and offline. In fact, we start with online and then we create global offline real-time communities where people engage in attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. Okay, so that's where we are going in the future of well-being, which is based on wisdom traditions. But today we have a lot more going on. There's AI, there's gene editing, there's something called messenger RNA technology, there's a deeper understanding of consciousness. And so actually the future of well-being is very bright. The future of longevity is very bright. The possibility of making disease optional is very bright. Less than 5% of disease is genetically determined by what are called fully penetrant genes. So if somebody has a fully penetrant gene, like say for Angelina Jolie, had a BRCA gene which predicts breast cancer, she had to have a preventive mastectomy because with that gene she would have gotten cancer. Okay. Even that now is going to be easily treatable with gene editing. So you'll be able to cut and paste genes the same way as you cut and paste your emails, metaphorically speaking. Read the barcode of a gene, delete the defective gene, insert the right gene, and voila, the disease is gone. However, that's less than 5%. More than 95% of illness is epigenetic, which means the quality of experience in life. And that's the list. That's epigenetics. And over there, love and joy is the most important in regulating your gene activity. So that's, I think, a beautiful future. Longevity, health span, experiencing biology with the absence of disease. But then the great wisdom traditions tell us, listen, all that's great. You can have the best health, you can increase your lifespan, you can have the best relationships, you can have the best diet, but ultimately old age is inevitable. And there's a possibility of infirmity, notwithstanding everything I've told you. And then death is the final curtain. Death is the final curtain. And this has led, in every culture, to a spiritual longing to find out who we are and what is reality all about. And especially in the yogic and Vedantic traditions and the Buddhist traditions, this is referred to as existential suffering. Existential suffering is also addressed in the Christian traditions, frequently referred to as the dark night of the soul. So we have to address that, because ultimately the final curtain is going to be death. And if we do not know or do not have an inkling on the mystery of our own existence, the mystery of our own birth, the mystery of death, then we have not actually looked at well-being as in its completion. We need physical well-being, we need emotional well-being, but we need spiritual well-being. And if you look at spiritual well-being or the spiritual experience, which is the same thing as the religious experience. I know these days religion, organized religion, is under attack, and justifiably so. But these days it's kind of almost fashionable for people to say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. It sounds cool, as they say. But the religious experience and the spiritual experience is the same experience in every religion. And that experience has three components. The first component is what is usually referred to as transcendence. Transcendence means we transcend the experience of space-time and causality and know ourselves as timeless beings that exist beyond space and time. That's the first religious experience. Whether it's Jesus Christ or Buddha or Muhammad or Rumi, it doesn't matter. That's the first experience. A shift in identity from body-mind to soul or spirit as an experience, not as a theory. The second component of the religious experience is a spontaneous emergence of what we call Platonic values: truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity. The second component. And the third component is the loss of the fear of death. So if you could have those three experiences, knowing yourself as a timeless being, a spontaneous emergence of Platonic values of morality, not imposed, but spontaneous, and the loss of the fear of death, that would be spiritual healing. But for that we need to look at our current models of both science and spirituality and religion, because they're obsolete. So science today is based, as I mentioned, on naive realism. Naive realism. The picture of the world is the look of it, number one. Number two, subject-object split, which means subject of experience and object of experience are two different things. Well, as far as the universe is concerned, subject and object are one movement in the whole universe. So that's the second assumption of naive realism, which is false. The third assumption is matter as the ontological primitive of the universe, which means matter creates everything, including mind. Matter, atoms and molecules somehow interact to create the experience of mind, of intuition, of insight, of imagination, of inspiration. Atoms and molecules create the mind. Well, no scientist has ever observed a substance called matter, notwithstanding what you hear in the scientific world. We do not experience a substance called matter. We experience our own perceptions, which we call matter. We experience our own perceptions, which we call matter. Fundamental experience is sound, touch, sight, taste, smell. emotions, thoughts, feelings, imagination. The rest is a human modeling called matter or materialism. And as long as we are in the sway of the superstition of matter, and it is a superstition, notwithstanding the success we've had with science, technology, the internet, and all of that, jet blades and intergalactic probes, science is an extremely successful model using matter as the ontological primitive of the universe. But what we call matter is a human concept for human perceptual activity. It is a species-specific interpretation of our experience, which is the five senses, our own thoughts, feelings, and imagination. That's it. And so that is another assumption which is part of naive realism. And the fourth assumption of naive realism is that the physical world, as you perceive it, would still be there if no one was looking at the universe. Well, the objection to that is, how do you prove that? How do you prove an observer-independent reality? You have to observe it to first experience it before you can mathematically or through science dissect it into the principles of physics, chemistry, and biology. Those four assumptions are currently the basis of all our science, which is very successful, and therefore we believe that science will lead us to truth. No. And again, the same way, religion, in the medieval ages, there's somebody there, usually pictured as a dead white male, called God, and that person is taking care of you. That model doesn't work with our 2 trillion galaxies and the 700 sextillion stars and the uncountable trillions of planets. So, there's no dead white male looking after you. There's a consciousness that you have access to, which is infinite, which is borderless, which is without cause, which is irreducible, which is shapeless and formless and fundamental, and without it there would be no experience that we call life. And if there is God, then you have access to God directly, not through an intermediary. So with that, I'd like to present to you a model that dismantles our naive realism. And this is called the direct method. It's part of a meditation process too. And towards the end of my talk, hopefully, since there's no time anyway, so what is it now? 6 o'clock. What time were we finishing? 7? 6:30? Okay, I'll do my best, okay? Even though there's no time. So, we'll do a meditation so you actually will have the experience, okay? Fundamental reality is SIFT. Easy acronym to remember. Okay, SIFT stands for sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. And when I say sensations, all sensations, sound, touch, sight, taste, smell, raw sensation is just that. Sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. But there's also something called feelings, emotions. We like something, we dislike it, and we all experience it. And then there's the final product, which is called thought. We interpret our experience. There's no reality outside of SIFT. If you can think of anything that is outside of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts, please come to the stage, take this microphone, and finish the lecture. if you can think of any experience that is outside of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. When we give meaning to direct experiences, we generate perceptions. So let's imagine you're a baby and you haven't been bamboozled into an identity. You're Irish, you were born in wherever, you're Catholic, you're Protestant, you're Hindu, you're Buddhist, you're Muslim. Your parents were such and such, your economic status is this is your history. If you haven't constructed an identity, and you're a baby, and you're looking at me, you have no idea that you have a name, and you have no idea this entity on the stage is somebody called Deepak Chopra. What is your direct experience as a baby? You're looking at me visually. You don't know that thing over there is called a shoe. Okay? You don't know that this is called pants, or this is called a hand, or this is called a microphone. But you're looking at me as a baby. What are you experiencing? Visually, all you're experiencing is color. Okay? All you're experiencing is color. That's a color, that's a color. This is a color, this is a color, this is a color. In the absence of color, there's no shape. And in the absence of shape, there's no form. So color is the basic, fundamental visual experience before we give it a name. Are you with me? Okay. Basic experience is color visually. When you give it a name, it becomes an object. But that color has no physical presence in the physical world. There's no color in the physical world. Color is an experience in consciousness. What's there physically? Photons. Photons do not have color. So right now, as you're looking at me, photons are coming into your eyes. No color. They're causing some kind of chemical reaction in your retina. And you have two eyes, 9.5 centimeters apart, 2.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters. By the time light reaches your eyes, goes through a lens. If there was an image in your eyes, which there isn't, even though I was taught that in school, there's no image in your eyes. But if there was an image of me in your eyes, you'd see two of me about this big, upside down and curved. Well, that's not happening. So then you say, color is my brain. Well, there's no color in your brain. There's only electrochemistry. You say, I'm experiencing this room in my brain. Well, how does this room fit inside your brain? How does the Milky Way galaxy fit inside your brain? Yes, there's something happening in your brain. It's called electrochemistry. But there's no experience happening in the brain. If I put a knife through the brain, you don't even feel it. So this is part of our naive realism that has to be shattered if we have to understand what reality is. Color is not a property of the physical world, nor is sound a property of the physical world. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, what's coming to your ears? Air molecules. They don't have any sound in them. What's happening in your ear? Chemistry. Electrical current. What's happening in your brain? Chemistry again. Where is the sound? It's not in your brain. And it's not here. It's in your consciousness. So what we call color, sound, taste, smell, sensation, these are not properties of the physical world. They're called qualia. Qualia means qualities of experience. And all experience is made of qualia. And qualia do not exist in the physical world or in the brain. or anywhere that you look. But you're experiencing them. Right now you're experiencing colors, shapes, forms, sounds, textures, smells. And you think these are properties of the physical world. No. In fact, your body is a bunch of qualia. An alchemy of qualia. So is this microphone. It's an alchemy of sensations. So where is all the action? The action is in consciousness. And where is consciousness? You can't find it. You can't keep looking for it. You won't find it because it's the one that's looking. How do you find that which is looking? How do you look at that which is looking except in a mirror? So what you see as the physical world is actually a mirror of your own consciousness. And that includes your body. It includes your mind and includes what we call the physical universe. So there's a phrase in the Upanishads, Prakratim Swam Vashtabhai Vishrajami Puna Puna. It says, curving back within myself, I create again and again. Chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm not talking about Bhagavad Gita as a religious text, but as an Upanishad, a practical way to understand existence. Chapter 13, Lord Krishna, who represents the spirit, is speaking to Arjuna, who represents the ego mind, and he says, I am the field, and I am the knower of the field. I am the field of awareness, and I am the knower of the field of awareness. Now that when you hear that the first time, you say, what the heck does it mean? But here is it. The field of awareness in which all experience occurs. All experience occurs in awareness. Where else would it occur? All experience occurs in consciousness. So where else would it be? I am the field of awareness, and the field of awareness has no borders. It has, therefore it's infinite. It has no location in space-time. It is shapeless. It is irreducible. It is fundamental. It is without cause. You know, people have, when we children, we say, who made me? And your parents say, God made you. Then you say, who made God? And then you say, I don't know. You're stuck. But what we call God, or the divine infinite intelligence, is not in space-time. And if it is not in space-time, it doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have a middle, it doesn't have an ending. It is timeless, spaceless, irreducible, fundamental, cannot be perceived. It is non-conceptualizable. Who you are is nothing that can be perceived or conceived. And yet, without the imperceivable you, there would be no perception. Without the inconceivable you, there would be nothing to conceptualize. There's perceived reality and there's fundamental reality. And we are so bamboozled by our perceptions, which are learned phenomenon, culturally learned phenomenon, religiously programmed phenomenon, scientifically programmed phenomenon, of something that is the ultimate mystery of our existence. You will not solve it through a system of thought, whether it's science, religion, philosophy, or theology, unless you know the source of thought. Because the source of thought is also the source of all experience, perceptions, feelings, sensations, images, and that is your own self. So once again, when you look at the Upanishads, they say Atman is Brahman. There are three aspects to your soul. First is the conditioned soul, Jiva. Then there's the unconditioned soul, beyond all conditioning, which is infinite possibilities. And then there's Brahman, which is Atman. And you are that. The phrase for that is Tattvamasi. Aham Brahmasmi. You are the universe. Go beyond the secret passages and the dark alleys and the ghost-filled attics of your mind, and you find that it is you and the divine in you that is creating a species-specific experience of reality that we call the universe. But now let's see this a little more. So this is when we give meaning to direct experience, we generate perceptions. Visual experience is color, shape and form. Auditory experience is sound. Tactile experience is sensation. Gustatory experience is flavor and taste. Olfactory experience is odor and fragrance. None of these qualia are properties of the physical world. All perception is a learned phenomenon. When I was in medical school, we heard of an experiment done by neuroscientists where they took a group of kittens and they brought them up in a room that had only horizontal stripes. They took another group of kittens, brought them up in a room that had vertical stripes. And when these kittens grew up to be wise old cats, then one group of kittens could only see a horizontal world. The other group of cats could only see a vertical world. So one group of cats would not experience this, the other group of cats would not experience this. Is the world horizontal? Is the world vertical? No, the world is infinite possibilities. The world is infinite synchronicity. The world is unpredictable. The world is creative, self-regulating, self-evolving, and it is divine. So the physical world is an interpretation of a narrow band of perceptual activities in consciousness. The visual band for humans is 390 to 750. There's nothing sacred in this narrow band because other species have different experiences. A bat has the experience of the echo of ultrasound. A butterfly navigates through ultraviolet. The world is much grander than you and I have conceived through our five senses. Nothingness or formlessness, which is fundamental, is impossible to imagine. Non-existence is not and cannot be an experience. Even as we imagine death, we survive as the one who's imagining it or observing it. Our range of objects and movements of objects developed in the savanna range. The very small and the very large are incomprehensible to us. And time remains a mystery. So those are the limitations of human knowing, but Eastern mandalas, and Romeo is an expert in these mandala creations, and Mesoamerican calendars, through meditative and contemplative practices, speak about the wheel of time, the interlocking cycles of biological organisms and celestial cycles, offering us a timeless transpersonal perspective of what might be called a non-linear, fractal, or holographic rendering of time and space. That's more real than what you're perceiving right now, which was a learned phenomenon. Culturally programmed, scientifically programmed, religiously programmed. So when we give emotions, we create perceptions, and then they create emotions and thoughts, and this is what we call mind, body, and spirit. All illusions, all projections, all superpositions, fluctuations, modified human awareness as human perceptions and vibrations of our own consciousness. Metaphorically, in some Vedantic traditions, this is called Shiva as pure awareness, and Shakti, the divine feminine, the vibration of that pure awareness that gives rise to all experienced reality. And these projections are mistaken for reality because we are embedded in them. Our body and mind is embedded in them. So, in a sense, what we call the human body mind and the world, we are all fictional characters in a collective dreamscape. And I think the time has come to wake up from that dream. Wittgenstein, the German philosopher, he said, our life is a dream. We are asleep, but once in a while we wake up enough to know that we're dreaming. And the Buddha, on his deathbed, said, this lifetime of ours is transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of beings is like looking at the movements of a dance. A lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky, rushing by like a torrent down a steep mountain. So if I asked you, what happened to your childhood? You'd say it's a dream. If I asked you, what happened to your teen years? I think you would agree, it's a dream. But what about yesterday? What about this morning? What about 5 minutes ago? What about the time, by the time these words reach you, they don't exist? Go out at night and look at the sky, and most of the stars that you see don't exist. If there's a star that's 100 million light years away from you, and it burnt itself up into the heat depth of absolute zero 50 million years ago, you will still see it for another 50 million years. And you're looking at a ghost. But on a smaller scale, when you look at me, by the time you have registered me, so, oh, that's Deepak, that's a perceptual snapshot, and by the time you actually recognize me, which means recognize me, by the time what you saw doesn't exist. So, we're all living in the past. All ghosts, all of you, fictional characters in a collective dreamscape. And so when the Buddha said this, Ananda was his favorite disciple, he said, who are you? Are you God? Are you a messenger? Are you the Messiah? Are you the prophet? And the Buddha said, no. So finally, Ananda said, who are you? What are you? And the Buddha's answer was, I'm awake. I am awake. And the time has come for us to wake up, otherwise we are sleepwalking to extinction. Climate change, extinction of species, war, terrorism, poison in our food chain, everything, chronic disease, and no joy. We are sleepwalking to extinction. This is an emergency call to wake up. And as I said, no system of thought will wake you up. So how do we get there? Once we see behind the mechanism of these magical lies, because every perception is a magical lie. My perception tells me the earth is flat. Nobody believes that anymore. My perception tells me that the ground I'm walking on is stationary. I know it's spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. My perception tells me that you're a three-dimensional anatomical structure in the theater of space-time and causality, when in fact your body is proportionately as void as intergalactic space. If I could see you as you really are, I'd see a huge emptiness with a few scattered dots, a few pixels, and some random electrical discharges. And even those come out of nothingness. So, don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you perceive. Go to the source of perception if you want to wake up. So I've already said this, I'm not going to go into details of the mechanics of this, but here, how many people now can see a young woman sitting at a drawer and a mirror, in front of a mirror? How many of you can see her? How many of you can see a skull? Well, which is it? It's neither. It's a bunch of colors. And those colors are generated in consciousness. Okay, when you give interpretation to it, then you see a picture. I'll give you some more examples. You can see a goblet and you can see two faces. Woman or a man playing the bugle. Mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, father-in-law, all in one. You choose. These are beautiful pictures. See an old man with a beard, or you see a Mexican riding a horse with another person on the sidewalk. It's neither. Your perception is a learned cultural phenomenon. As raw experience, it is color. That is it. Butterflies are a young woman. Birds returning to their nesting place or the face of a woman. Horses against a background of mountain and sky or a woman with long locks. I like this very much because it's inspired, this particular slide is inspired by the visionary poet William Blake. And I know Ireland is so educated. There's hardly any place I go to anymore where they have classic literature or poetry or philosophy other than Ireland. So William Blake, one of his poems says, "We are led to believe a lie when we see with and not through the eye that was born in a night to perish in a night while the soul slept in beams of light." So when we see through with the eye, we see through the conditioned mind. The mind that has been conditioned by philosophy, by theology, by religion, and by science. But when we see through it, we see that it's all a projection of our own self. And that includes our body and our mind. Everything you see there is not in the picture. The face that you see there is not in the picture. Look very carefully. The face that appears is not in the picture. Consciousness conceives, constructs, governs, and becomes the physical universe. Whether you call it God, or Ein Sof, or Allah, or Brahman, it doesn't matter. But there is a fundamental, divine, incomprehensible, unimaginable, irreducible reality without which there is no experience. Without which there is no experience. So this was the basis of a book I wrote a few years ago called Meta Human, which is the awakened human. And as a start, we have to stop reacting to the world. Because the moment you react, you're reacting from your conditioned mind. So anytime you react, stop, pause, take 3 deep breaths, observe your mind getting calmer, and then proceed with an aware response. Develop spiritual divine attitudes like kindness, compassion, gratitude, joy, bliss, equanimity. These are called divine emotions. Acceptance of yourself and others just as they are. Tune into the wisdom of your body and learn to transcend and be a witness to your inner and outer reality. And when we do this, we have access to states of consciousness that normally we don't have. We go through an entire lifetime waking, dreaming, and sleeping. But beyond that is non-local awareness, which is presence of soul. Before I proceed, let me ask you a question. Are you finding this interesting? A little more enthusiasm? Yes? Yes? Okay. Let me ask you the same question, but this time don't answer it. Please follow my instruction very carefully. I'm going to ask you the question, are you finding this interesting? And answer is enthusiastic yes, but don't answer it till I raise my hand, okay? So do you find this interesting?
Yes.
So the question is a thought. The answer is a thought. In between is you, a soul, a presence, a consciousness. That presence was there when you were a baby. Different body, different mind, different personality. It was there when you were 8 years of age, same presence, not the same emotions, hopefully, not the same personality, unless you want to run for president in the United States, then it's fine. But we are constantly evolving as minds, our bodies, as personalities, in the same presence, which is the soul. So, even if you don't meditate, just be aware of that presence. Because that presence is the real you. In the Upanishads, they say water cannot wet it, wind cannot dry it, weapons cannot shatter it, fire cannot burn it. It's ancient, it's not subject to birth, it's not subject to death, and it is you. And that is your ticket to freedom. As we cultivate that presence, which is called soul presence, I didn't put soul presence here because I have to give a talk to the Swedish Academy, and I didn't think they'd appreciate the word soul. So non-local means outside of space-time. And then there's something called non-local and local awareness, which is cosmic consciousness. Something beyond that, where you experience other people's soul, which is called divine consciousness or God consciousness. And ultimately, a complete correction of the artificial subject-object split. You realize that you are the source of subject and object. They're both one. And that is freedom. It is ultimate freedom from existential suffering. Who you are is a field of infinite possibilities. Without cause, without form, irreducible, infinite, fundamental. Who you are is infinite creativity. Who you are unfolds experience through synchronicity, the source of intention and attention, self-organizing, self-regulating, self-evolving, and rooted in the knowing of I am. Not I am Deepak, I am. When Moses looks at the burning bush, asks God, who are you? The answer is, I am that I am. And that I am is infinite. And that will be the ultimate metaverse, not what's his name, the guy who created Facebook, Meta, whatever. That's not meta universe. This is the real. When there's a shift in sense of self, a change in our emotions from fear to love, a shift in our cognition, in our understanding, a shift in our memory, so we remember who we really are, instead of thinking of ourselves as skin-encapsulated egos, a shift in insight, inner vision, intuition, creativity, flow, transcendence, and a loss of personal agency. What do I mean by that? We don't do anything. It is the divine that does everything, and we are the instruments of that divine, unfathomable mystery of existence. And ultimately, the loss of the fear of death. So that's my new formula for you. Instead of E is equal to mc squared, 0 is equal to 1 is equal to infinity. That's who we are. 0 is everything, and it's all one. And these are the ways. Yoga, in its full understanding, is social intelligence, emotional intelligence, understanding your body as awareness, using breathing techniques to regulate your autonomic nervous system, withdrawal of the senses, regulation of internal organs, that's called interoceptive awareness, dharana, focused attention and intention, dhyan, meditation, and samadhi, transcendence. So I'll stop here, and if it's okay, we can do a 10-minute meditation. Would you like that? Yes. Okay. So please uncross your legs, put your feet firmly on the ground, and it's 6:30, so we'll go on a little for more, okay? So please close your eyes. Keep your hands comfortably open in your lap. Be relaxed. Use your use your back rest so your spine is comfortable. And observe your breath, which was the first. Mindfulness has become a very popular word, but it wasn't called that. It was called Vipassana by the Buddha. And Vipassana means insight, inner vision. So as the Buddha observed his breath, he came to certain conclusions. He said, breath is a sensation. And then he came to another conclusion. He said, every experience is a sensation. Sound, touch, sight, taste, even thought is a sensation. Emotions are subtle sensations. Everything is a sensation. But the breath is the first when we come into this world. And from here he derived the law of impermanence. Whatever is in the nature of arising is also in the nature of subsiding. So don't hold on to your breath, you will suffocate. And similarly, don't hold on to any experience, it's impossible. Because experience arises, you experience it, then it's gone, before the next experience. So for now, just observe the arising and the subsiding of breath. If you hold on, you'll suffocate. That's called resistance. If you let go, you flow. Now please bring your awareness to your heart and mentally ask yourself the following question. Who am I? Am I the changing body, or am I the awareness in which the body is a changing experience? Am I the mind, the changing emotions? Or am I the awareness in which emotions arise and subside, just like the breath? Do not try to answer the question. Allow any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought to spontaneously arise. And if it does, notice it and let it go. Who am I? Now mentally ask this following question. What do I want? What is my deepest desire for myself, for my family, for the world? What do I want? Please do not try to answer it. Just observe any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought. What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? Now ask the third question. What is my purpose? What is my calling? How can I serve? What is my purpose? Allowing any sensation, any feeling, any image to spontaneously arise. What is my purpose? Fourth and final question, what am I grateful for? Notwithstanding what is happening in the world, notwithstanding the challenges in my life, what am I grateful for? This question opens the door to your soul, to reality. What am I grateful for? Allowing any sensation, any feeling, any image to spontaneously come to you. Now let go of all the questions. Just be aware of, bring your awareness to sound, including the sound of my voice or any other sound. As you're aware of sound, mentally tell yourself, I'm the awareness in which every sound arises and subsides. Now feel the sensations in your body from the inside out, including the sensation of your skin touching your clothes. As you feel those sensations, remind yourself, I'm the awareness in which every sensation arises and subsides. All these things come and go. I remain as awareness. Now, in your mind, let's generate some images. Think of or generate the image of snow-clad mountains. Now generate the image of a rainbow. The image of a beautiful sunset on the ocean. Image of red roses. Green meadow, lush green valley. And remind yourself, I'm the awareness in which everything is seen. Generate some saliva in your mouth, taste it. Taste the back of your teeth, the roof of your mouth. And remind yourself, I am the awareness in which flavors arise and subside, just like the breath. Bring one hand to your nostrils, smell it, reminding yourself, I am the awareness in which fragrances and odors arise and subside. Now let your awareness, your consciousness, expand beyond the boundaries of your skin. Let it engulf this beautiful city of Cork, all of Ireland, all of Europe, the entire world. Let your awareness expand beyond planet Earth into the solar system, into the Milky Way galaxy, and beyond, stars and moon and sky, reminding yourself, I'm the awareness in which the entire universe arises and subsides as my own sensations, my own feelings, my own thoughts, my own images. I'm the awareness in which the universe recycles and evolves. Now bring your awareness back into your heart and just repeat your name. First name is enough. So I'm Deepak, I'm Romeo, I'm, Topaz. And as you repeat your name, remind yourself, that's my name. That's not who I am. So drop your name and just repeat the phrase, I am, with no name attached to it. No history, no conditioning. I am that I am. And now if you wish, replace the word I am with the mantra aham, which is the vibration of our existence. Sanskrit mantra. Mantra is an instrument of the mind that takes us beyond the mind. So gently repeat the mantra without moving your lips or your tongue. Aham, aham. The sacred sound of existence. You might be distracted, just gently bring your awareness to the mantra, aham. Let's do this for a couple of minutes. Aham. Aham. Finally, let the mantra go and rest in your own presence. Rest in your own awareness. Be aware of being aware. This is who we are. Awareness. No shape, no form, no location. Spaceless, timeless, formless, infinite awareness, without which no experience. So rest in that awareness. Just rest in that awareness. This is home. Before we finish, feel your body with the following intention: joyful, energetic body. Joyful, energetic body. Bring your presence to your heart with the intention: loving, compassionate heart. Bring your awareness to your third eye, between your eyebrows, with the intention: reflective, alert mind. And once again, let your awareness float outside the boundaries of your skin. Let it pervade the fabric of space and time, with the intention: lightness of being. Lightness of spirit. And finally, relax into your body and take a minute before you open your eyes. You can open your eyes now. The great Sufi poet Rumi said, God's language is silence. Everything else is poor translation. So thank you for listening to this poor translation.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I prepared something to say in closing, and then we realised that silence might actually be better. But I do want to just say that we talked about connection, we talked about reawakening, we talked about building community, and I think we have hopefully sparked something here tonight that is just the beginning of something that we can all move towards. Do we have a small token of appreciation? It is a little print. It's from a local Cork artist, Sue Nelson. She makes beautiful artwork. This is from UCC and it's called Follow the Light, and we thought that might be. Yeah, you can go.